In 1969, speakers built in a BBC workshop ended up in every serious British studio within 5 years. Today, you cannot buy them for under $3,000, 7 speakers that defined hi-fi, and why each became impossible to own. The repair shop tells you, no sponsored gear, no manufacturer relationships, just what the technicians know. Spendor BC1. Spencer Hughes spent 15 years inside the BBC research department before he decided the industry was doing it wrong. In 1969, he founded Spendor in his garden shed in St. Albans and built a speaker that did something nobody else was trying to do. Not sound impressive. Tell the truth. The specific engineering decision was the Vandersteen polymer mid-range driver, a material Hughes and the BBC developed because it had lower coloration than anything else available. Vandersteen did not add warmth. It did not add air. It reproduced what was on the tape and nothing else. Every major manufacturer was making speakers that flattered recordings. Hughes made one that exposed them. Decca specified the BC1. EMI specified it. The BBC itself specified it. The recordings made on Spendor monitors during the 1970s are some of the most critically respected albums ever produced, because the engineers could hear exactly what they were doing. Spencer Hughes died in 2012. He never saw the BC1 become the collector's object it is today. He never saw pairs trading for $4,000. He built an honest speaker in a garden shed and trusted that the people who needed it would find it. The Vandersteen driver is no longer manufactured. Original pairs trade between $2,000 and $4,000. When the surrounds fail, and they do, finding replacement materials is a specialist task. Verdict. The speaker the BBC trusted to tell the truth, built by a man who never cared whether anyone else agreed. If you find a pair with intact surrounds, buy them. If the surrounds have deteriorated, budget for specialist restoration before you trust what you hear. A garden shed, a polymer cone, and recordings that still hold up 50 years later. The second was built by a man with a different obsession, not truth, but physics. Linn Isobarik. In 1973, Ivor Tiefenbrunn founded Linn Products in Glasgow with one belief the entire audio industry thought was wrong. The source was everything. Get the turntable right, and the rest would follow. Get it wrong, and no amount of money downstream would fix it. The Isobarik applied that same discipline to the cabinet. 2 identical woofers in a push-pull configuration, one behind the other, with the air between them acting as a coupling medium. The effect is to halve the resonant frequency while allowing a significantly smaller cabinet than any conventional design would require for the same bass extension. What technicians find when they open surviving Isobarik cabinets is construction that makes commercial sense only to someone who refuses to compromise. Every joint, every internal brace, every component, over-engineered by any rational margin analysis. Tiefenbrunn built them the way he believed they should be built, without reference to what the market would bear. The Isobarik was discontinued in the 1990s. Tiefenbrunn is still alive. He still runs Linn. He has never built anything like the Isobarik again because the market never rewarded him for it. Pairs sell for $3,000 to $8,000. Crossover components are 50 years old. Linn no longer manufactures replacement drivers. Verdict: the speaker that proved a smaller cabinet could produce better bass than a larger one, and that the market punishes honesty more often than it rewards it. If you find a pair with both woofers working correctly and original crossovers intact, they reward the investment. If either woofer shows distortion, the recone cost will be significant. Built by a man who is still alive, still making products, and has never gone back. The third was never designed by one man. It was designed by a committee. And it is the only time in hi-fi history that a committee got it exactly right. Chartwell LS3 5A. In 1972, the BBC wrote a specification instead of designing a speaker. a precise set of acoustic requirements that any manufacturer could attempt to meet. Something small enough to carry into an outside broadcast vehicle, accurate enough to trust. Chartwell Loudspeakers was one of the original manufacturers licensed to build to that specification. The difference between the Chartwell and the better-known Rogers version is subtle, marginally different crossover values, slightly different cabinet tolerances. Technicians describe a marginally tighter low-mid range, though measurement rather than listening is required to confirm it reliably. Chartwell ceased trading in the early 1980s. No acquisition, no bankruptcy, no announcement. The people who built them dispersed, the tooling was lost, and the original Chartwell execution became irreproducible. Falcon Acoustics currently builds a version using original specification drivers. An original Chartwell trades for over $2,000 specifically because the thing that made it the Chartwell, the hands, the tolerances, the moment, cannot be recreated. Prices mentioned are US-based estimates. Check your local market. Verdict: the rarer sibling of the most copied specification in British hi-fi history, worth more for what it represents than for what distinguishes it from its successors. If you want an original Chartwell, budget for rarity. If you want the LS3 5A sound, Falcon Acoustics' current production is the honest, modern answer. 3 British speakers, 3 different ways of refusing to compromise. The fourth comes from California, a man who read the same physics textbooks as everyone else and arrived at a completely different conclusion. Vandersteen Model 2. Richard Vandersteen introduced the Model 2 in 1977 from a workshop in Hanford, California, with one conviction the industry treated as impractical. Every driver should produce its frequency range in correct time alignment with every other. A musical event should arrive at the listener's ears as a single, coherent wave, not a series of overlapping arrivals from physically separated drivers. Achieving this requires a sloped baffle, with each driver stepped back by the precise distance needed to align acoustic outputs in time. It requires first-order crossover slopes. It requires an unusual appearance that no marketing department would have approved. Vandersteen did it anyway. Here is what makes the Vandersteen story different from everything else on this list. The Model 2 is still in production. Richard Vandersteen is still building it. Nearly 50 years later, the engineering philosophy has not changed. The man who started in a California workshop in 1977 is still there. That kind of continuity is almost impossible to find in this industry. Original 1977 examples are nearly 50 years old. Crossovers in early production units used components no longer manufactured. Verdict: proof that time coherence was achievable in a commercial design, and that one engineer, given enough stubbornness, can outlast an entire industry. If you want the Vandersteen sound, current production is the honest option. If you want an original 1977 example, inspect the crossovers carefully before committing. Before the final 3, and these are the 3 that the people who have owned them describe the same way, every time, if this is the kind of content you want more of, subscribe now. Quick question: have you ever owned a pair of speakers you genuinely regret selling? The next 3 are exactly those speakers. The 5th was built in rural England and changed how an entire generation of engineers mixed records. Celestion Ditton 66. Celestion was founded in Surrey in 1924. For 50 years, they made drivers for other people's speakers. Then, in 1972, they built a statement product, a large 3-way floor-standing speaker with a first-generation ribbon tweeter that solved a genuine problem conventional dome tweeters could not. What technicians find when they open surviving Ditton 66 cabinets is the crossover. Celestion specified polypropylene film capacitors and air core inductors in 1972, components that cost significantly more than the electrolytic alternatives everyone else was using. That decision is why surviving pairs still measure correctly 50 years later. Here is the part most people do not know. The Ditton 66 was discontinued in the late 1970s, not because it failed, but because Celestion was acquired and the new owners wanted a different product range. The engineers who built it had no say. The speaker that defined a generation of British studio monitoring was cancelled by a purchasing decision. Surviving pairs trade between $800 and $2,000. The ribbon tweeter is the component most likely to have failed. Replacements require specialist installation. Verdict: the speaker, where Celestion, committed to component quality that competitors would not match for another decade, cancelled by people who never understood what it could do. If the ribbon is intact, a Ditton 66 in good condition is one of the most cost-effective ways to hear what 1972 British engineering was capable of. If the ribbon has failed, factor specialist restoration into the purchase cost. 5 speakers, 5 engineers who refused to do it the easy way. The 6th threw out the entire concept of what a speaker cabinet was supposed to do. IMF Super Compact. Irving M. Freed was an American engineer working in London in the late 1960s with one conviction the whole industry dismissed: a transmission line routing bass energy through a long, internally damped acoustic path before releasing it. Produced more accurate bass than any reflex or sealed box design. Not louder, not more extended, more accurate. He founded IMF Electronics and built the Super Compact, a transmission line folded multiple times inside a compact cabinet. The stuffing was chosen and packed with precision, unusual for a commercial manufacturer. Every pair built as though Freed would personally be listening to it. The quality mastering engineers who used IMF monitors still describe decades later is not impressive bass. It is accurate bass. The transmission line does not add what is not there. It controls what is. That is rarer than it sounds. Irving Freed died in 2015, still convinced, according to everyone who knew him, that transmission line loading was the right answer and that the industry had never been willing to do the work required to get it right. Original pairs trade between $1,000 and $3,000 when they appear. The stuffing may have compressed over 50 years. Specialist restorers exist but are few. Verdict: the speaker of a man who was right about something the industry never accepted and who spent his life proving it one cabinet at a time. If you find a pair with good cabinets and original drivers intact, they are worth restoring. Budget for transmission line inspection as part of the purchase. 6 speakers, 6 men who refuse to do it the industry's way. The 7th is different from every other on this list. It is not impossible to find because the company closed. It is impossible to afford, and that is a completely different kind of loss. Harbeth Monitor 40. Dudley Harwood left the BBC Research Department in 1977 and founded Harbeth Acoustics with one objective: build the monitor the BBC should have built but never did. The Monitor 40, introduced in 1998, used Harbeth's proprietary radial cone material, a polymer developed because no commercially available cone had the combination of low coloration, controlled breakup, and thermal consistency a professional reference required. Harbeth manufactures radial themselves. No other manufacturer uses it. The Monitor 40 is still in production. That is the problem. In 1998, it cost approximately $4,000 in current terms. A pair you could have bought in 2005 for $6,000 now costs $15,000. The engineering has not changed. The manufacturing has not moved. The price has simply followed what the market will pay, and the market has decided that the most honest professional monitor ever made is now only for professional institutions. Dudley Harwood died in 2003. He built a company to make the monitor the BBC should have built. His successor has kept building it. And the people who most need to hear it can no longer afford to own it. Verdict: the speaker built by the people who invented what the BBC uses, now priced beyond the reach of the people most qualified to appreciate it. If you find a used Monitor 40 in good condition for under $6,000, that is the honest price. At $15,000 new, the engineering is available only to buyers for whom that represents a considered purchase rather than a significant sacrifice. Here is the principle I want you to take away from this video. One sentence. Every speaker on this list was built by someone who believed that getting it right mattered more than getting it sold, and the market punished every single one of them for it eventually. 3 words: honest, uncompromised, forgotten. 7 speakers, 7 engineers, 7 different ways of refusing to do what the industry wanted. None of them on the shelf of any hi-fi shop you can walk into today. All of them still worth finding. Which of these 7 have you owned, heard, or always wanted to find? Drop it below. See you next time.